Thanks, Nick. Do you want me to use this microphone, or can you hear me okay? Microphone. You want microphone? Try this one. Is that better? All right. Okay, my name's Rick Hergenhan, Pastor Rick Hergenhan, and I set out with one intention in life when I left school. I was going to be a farmer. And then I remember somewhere early along the way I prayed a prayer and I said, God, whatever you want me to do with my life, I'll do it. Has anyone ever prayed a prayer like that? Yeah. It's like, it is a dangerous prayer. And, some years later, here I am. And I'm lucky enough today to have my wife with me as well, who's sitting down the front here, is Libby. And I think this is probably the first time in how many years of ministry you've come with me on a trip like this, which is really nice. So she'll kick me and keep me in line and saying the right things. So thanks for coming. So just to be clear on what we're going to talk about before that, I just want to know where have we got people from? Like what areas are represented? I can see a few Australians here who I know. Anyone from Papua New Guinea? Yes. Yeah, quite a few. Solomons? Yep, a few from the Solomons. Fiji? Yes. Samoa? Tell me some other ones. We've got a fair bit of the room. Where from? Cook Island. Cook Islands. You know, my next door neighbour's from Cook Islands. When I lived in Hobart, I've just moved from Hobart, and my next door neighbour's from the Cooks, yeah.
Island of Tasmania.
Island of Tasmania. He's an islander, and he's sweating here today because he has forgotten about warm weather. So pray for David. Tonga, welcome. Tahiti, yes, welcome. Vanuatu, yes, welcome too. We've got Kiribati. How many from Kiribati are here? You represent. Praise the Lord. So it's good to have such a wide range of people here, and I just want to be clear this afternoon that we are. Some people were talking to me about what kind of club ministry we're going to be talking about, and I was getting some funny text messages and comments. Not this kind. Not this kind either. Okay? We're talking about a different kind of club ministry here this afternoon, and that is what we have here. Adventurers, pathfinders, ambassadors, and AYs. Can I see the hands of anyone who has been involved either as an adventurer or an adventurer leader in a club? Can I see the hands? Keep them up high. Yeah, we got lots of people. That's really good. Pathfinders, a little bit older age group. You can keep your hand up if you've been involved in Pathfinders or you were a Pathfinder. Yeah, just about everyone. What about ambassadors? Ambassadors are a little newer to the scene. We got a few ambassador people. Yes. And ambassadors in Australia is almost non-existent. There was one club that I was aware of. There may still be a couple of clubs, but ambassadors has never really taken off in Australia. Any in West Australia, Sean? None. It's never really taken off in a big way, ambassadors. But I understand that in a lot of the South Pacific, ambassadors are quite big. Is that correct? Yeah. So I can't share with you in great detail on ambassadors today, but I know that it's part of the sequence, definitely part of the sequence that goes adventurers, pathfinders, ambassadors. And then, of course, we have AYs. And you might not know that AYs in Australia is almost non-existent in Australia. And there's a whole big history behind how we arrived at that. And I am not advocating here today that you should do away with AYs, okay? If AYs is helping you make disciples of Jesus Christ, you should do it and do it with all your heart. But in Australia, it doesn't. It happens in some of the ethnic churches that are in our society. They still exist, but mainstream Australian churches, most of them, are not involved in AYs these days, even though that has been a great blessing in years gone by and it does many good things. So I won't spend too much time on AYs. When I say to you things like Pathfinders, what kind of memories come up in your mind? Are they good memories? Yeah? Fun. What other words are we hearing when we think Pathfinders? Camporees. Yep. T-necks. Hiking. Yeah, we need more coconut trees in Australia, so we can enjoy some nice, cool coconut juice. It's very interesting to me that when I say that to you, the whole room lights up. Good things. And I want to come back to this as we go along further, that this is a really, it doesn't matter where you go in the world, more than 9 times out of 10, when you mention Pathfinders, people have good memories in their mind. And this is an avenue you have, or an access you have to people who may be either in the church or even out of the church. And I can think of a friend who I went to school with him, and he wasn't a Christian, and he joined our Pathfinder Club for a few years, and we did a lot of camping together and hiking and that kind of thing. And even to this day, if I go back to my hometown and occasionally I see him, what's the first thing he wants to talk about with me? Pathfinders. Yeah, so we're, many years later, Pathfinders, good memories he has. And that kind of gives you, what's the right word? Insight, but more than insight, it gives you capital. You can go to them and you can use that as a building point. They've heard the gospel. You've been in the Pathfinder Club. They've been challenged by it. They've got good memories of their time there, and you've got something to build on that's very positive. You've got a positive starting point. In Australian culture particularly, people are far away from Christianity. Many young people are being brought up today, their parents have no Christian influence, and so there's like a blank slate amongst young people that they're not for or against. They just don't know anything about it. And so any sort of positive interactions you have, and any of those interactions you have, you can start sowing into, tell them anything about Jesus, and they'll believe you because they're not going to argue. They don't know any different. So some great opportunities to be had in that space. Of course, all of these clubs are uniformed, and the uniform brings a sense of belonging, equality, helps to build the team side of things, and also includes your discipline and structure with wearing a uniform. Can I just ask someone from, let's say, from Papua New Guinea, because we had a lot of people here, what does wearing the uniform mean? Let's pick on Pathfinders. What does wearing the Pathfinder uniform mean in your society? Someone want to call out for me? Is it a positive thing or a negative thing to wear the uniform? Very positive. Can you explain to me why? Because in Australian society, when I say to kids, you should all wear the uniform, you know what sort of response we get? Do we have to? They're not so into it. So if you can explain to us, especially so we can all get an understanding of, tell us about the uniform.
It is our identity.
Okay, your identity. Yep. Pride, okay. Belonging. Having that uniform on. You're part of something bigger. Yeah. If people see you in the street wearing the uniform, what do they think? Smile? Positive? Yeah. Uniform's very important. Yeah. And it's interesting that in Australian society, uniform is not seen always exactly the same way, believe it or not. So what I want to advocate to you is, you need to use whatever tools are in the toolkit, if uniform helps you kick missional goals and helps you take, does good things for you, go with the uniform. In Australia, if the uniform isn't helping you do that, you need to work out how you can get everyone, doing the same thing without actually turning them off, if that makes sense. In Australia in recent years, there was a slight change in the uniform to try and make it easier and more accessible for more people to be able to get the uniform and wear it and be part of the Pathfinder Club. And so the uniform, we want the same, we want it to work, but we must always remember that that uniform serves us to do the mission of God. Yeah. Here's the adventurers. Is anyone new to adventurers? You don't know much about adventurers? Or you're all very familiar with adventurers? Yep. This is, it's interesting, adventurers sits with the youth department, not with the children's ministry department. Has anyone ever noticed that slight difference? Yeah. And that is because it works as a feeder into Pathfinders. It was designed as help our younger kids grow up, discipling them to become part of the Pathfinder Club, okay? And of course, Pathfinders, we all know and love many aspects of Pathfinders, and so many of you had your hands up, you've been involved in Pathfinder clubs before, and, who remembers the first Pathfinder honour you did? Yep, what did you do, Pastor Nick?
Beginner swimming.
Beginner swimming, yeah, okay. Anyone else remember the first Pathfinder honour? Yeah, Dave. Dogs. Yeah. You know what mine was? Cats. There are so many different aspects of Pathfinder, so many different resources that you can draw on to help enrich that age group, the 10 to 15-year-olds. And you're part of a worldwide movement as well. A couple of million Pathfinders the world over. And there's something about being involved in a movement that is bigger than just what's happening in your local church. Would you agree? Yeah. And of course, ambassadors. Have we got any ambassadors club leaders here with us today? Anyone from an ambassador club? Anyone help administer ambassadors at all? Yeah, you do? Tell us, what's the best thing about ambassadors?
Doing projects.
Doing projects?
Yeah.
And what kind of projects do you do with your club?
We put together, we come up with ideas.
Yes?
We do it for our local church.
Yep.
Some projects, or either we get our investors for the requirements that is available, especially camping and other sports activities that they do. And we follow the 7th module on the ambassadors curriculum.
Okay, very good, very good. So ambassador is a slightly older age group, 16 to 21-year-olds, I believe, and following some of the principles that are found in Pathfinders, but further developing those. Oftentimes in Australian culture, rather than doing ambassadors, people would go on to be a junior counsellor in the Pathfinder Club and do their master guide as part of their development as young leaders. I want to look at some of the advantages that come from being involved in a club, adventurer, pathfinder, or ambassador. And I want to note that, and I've glossed over this before, that if you are part of an adventurer club, the opportunities in the adventurer club are very much missional, not only to the children, but certainly to the parents. Adventurers, the parents most often bring their children and stay and are engaged in some way in what happens in what happens during the day. And so as you're thinking and you're planning, have it right in the front of your mind that it is the parents particularly that you shouldn't overlook them while you're doing your planning for your club. And you're thinking about missional, how do I think missional in this space? Not just the children, but think also about the parents. How can I engage with the parents? How can I share the good news about Jesus Christ with them? How can I let them know the things that we as Adventists hold dear and are precious to us? How can I share them in a way that will make sense to the parents? Adventurers in Australia is a growing movement, and there's something that I feel that all parents have in common, whether they're part of the church or not, and that is they want good outcomes for their children. Every parent wants their children to grow up and succeed in life and do great things. I can't think of a parent who I've ever met who doesn't want that for their children. And so if they're looking around for things to do with their children and be engaged in, Adventurers offers something that many other spaces in our society do not. It gives time away, often time away from screens. It gives a balance of outdoor activities. It gives some indoor things. It's parents involved. It's good, clean, gospel and Christian-centred time with the children. And so I want to go through a bunch of other advantages here, one by one. So there's the big list, and I'll break it down a little. And if you've got questions along the way, put your hand up and ask. I'm quite happy to have a discussion with you. And if I don't know the answer, I'll tell Nick he can answer it. How about that? All right. So the club ministry meets whole person needs. So it's not just focused on one area. So it's not just focused on we have to get people to know the 10 Commandments, or we need to know they have to be an expert in the three angels' message. As important as those things are, it's not just simply focused on that social, physical, spiritual and mental. I've broken it down into here. So the social part. Who doesn't love or who doesn't have memories of when you were a kid, you're an adventurer or you're a pathfinder and you're hanging out with your mates? Yeah, friends, seeing some smiles around there, you're thinking good thoughts. Naturally, pathfinders and adventurers and ambassadors, because you've got people of your own age group there, you're thinking good thoughts, Friendships are just made because you're doing those kind of activities together. Research shows that teens who attend youth clubs regularly were less likely to truant from school, less likely to drink alcohol, more likely to have good health, and more likely to want to go to university. So even outside of the church, researchers have found very clearly that people who are involved in clubs, and this is a wide range of clubs, there's good outcomes, social outcomes. And there was also evidence that these positive changes persist over time when they reached age 20. So it's not just something that's good while they're attending the club, but it helps set them up for a good trajectory in life, sends them in a good way. So socially, there are some wins. And even as a parent, you're thinking about who are my children socialising with at school? Because who they hang around with is more likely the kind of people they become, if that makes sense. So if they've got a good group of friends, then the chances of them doing good things and getting good outcomes in their life are much higher. So being part of a club that is Christian-based and focuses on the whole person, there's a good chance they're going to make friends who are interested in the same things. What about the physical? There's a real need more and more in our society for young people to be engaged in physical things. 61% of parents report that keeping their children active is a major goal, suggesting a desire for more physical engagement. Any parents here ever kind of get a bit concerned about how much screen time their children might have? Yep. You might have thought about it once or twice. The whole setup of Pathfinders particularly has a big focus on the outdoors. It's not a big focus on screen time and sitting reading books. It's a big focus on outside, out in nature, seeing God's hand at work. So the physical aspect often takes care of itself. Who can recall a Pathfinder hike where they've hiked somewhere and by the time they get into camp at night, their legs are burning, They're aching all over. Anyone recall those moments? And who thinks back and thinks that was a terrible time? Or who goes, you know what, I was hurting, but that was really good. Yep, that's how it goes. And so I think it's a really good experience for children to actually push themselves like that. From the physical side of things, they get to learn a different aspect of what it's like to do life. Recently, I took my three oldest children on a hike, and it's a somewhat famous hike in Australia. It's called the Overland Trail. And we walked, I think it was 72 kilometres or 77 kilometres in, I think it was 5 days. And with a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. And we did that hike and had a great time, and even the 9-year-old carried everything he needed, food, sleeping mat, sleeping bag, the whole lot, carried it all on his back the whole way through, and they had a wonderful time. And that was just over 12 months ago. And again, who broke down and had the most trouble? Me. And we think back and we remember that as a great time. Physical activity in the great outdoors. Spiritual. Recent research in Australia indicates that 15 to 24-year-olds and young adults up to 34 are remarkably open to church invitations. This is somewhat surprising because in Australian culture it's almost like the pendulum away from Christianity has swung right out, and now people are starting to be more open to spiritual things. And research from a range of different places is showing that the ones who are most likely to come to an invitation to church are the 15 to 24-year-olds. They're the most open. But I've highlighted down the bottom, the invitations are personal, and we heard that this morning in the big tent. It comes from a personal invitation. So if I send out, just a blanket message on social media, come along, I may get some interest, but the real interest will come when young people invite their friends, or parents of the young people speak to the other parents and let them know that a good thing is happening. And so there's a whole lot of opportunities in the spiritual realm that are starting to exist that haven't before. It's also interesting that you get unique access to speak about spiritual matters when you're away on a camp out or you're doing things with young people, activities in the outdoors. Whenever you're spending time with young people, you might think it's a waste of time. Like, what's map and compass work got to do with the three angels message? Or what's map and compass got to do with how am I going to get this person baptised? Or, you know what I mean? And you need to put that thought just aside for a minute, because the more time you spend with a young person, you are buying currency with them. You are gaining respect or the ability to be able to speak into their lives. Because what you'll find is that you might be out all day hiking somewhere, and then sitting around the campfire at night, they'll suddenly start talking to you about things that are really important and on their heart. They might start talking to you about the situation at home between mum and dad, or some challenge they've got, or something they might be deeply ashamed of. But it will only come once you've had time to build the relationship. It's not always easy to build a relationship just in a Bible study. But when you're with the young people and you're hiking and you're walking beside them, when you're abseiling with them, when you're out water skiing, whatever you might do as a club together, service activities, anything together that you're just doing something that might even seem mundane, that is building currency with them, building a relationship that later on you'll get to speak into their lives. And that can be, again, in the spiritual space, when they trust you and you say to them, you know what, I think you should make a commitment to Jesus. You know what the response usually is if they trust you and think you're a good person? Very positive straight away. anyone been involved in summer camps? Yep. A lot of summer camps happen in Australia over Christmas time. And how it's usually divided up in Australia is a cabin leader or a counsellor, we sometimes call them, might look after 6 or 8 young people for the week. They go everywhere together, they eat together. And that cabin leader, if they do a good job, and most of them do an excellent job, by the end of the week they say, hey, you guys, you should make a commitment to Jesus. And all of the kids and young people in the cabin usually go, okay. We got respect for our cabin leader, our counsellor, and if they say it's a good thing, then we think it's a good thing. And so you'll get a whole lot of spiritual outcomes, really good spiritual outcomes, when you build it on a relationship. And yep, I've talked about relationships. Mental health, big issue in our society and growing more and more. I remember I was doing some work as a university chaplain in Newcastle, and they said to us there, this was about 2015, they said, in 5 years' time, the biggest issue we'll be facing on this campus is mental health. And you know what my response was? That wouldn't be right. You know what? It was right. And it's an issue that continues to grow. People feel anxious when they're using their phone, Gen Z, and 72% feeling better about life and more peaceful when they have less screen time. Clubs, all the resources and all the way it's been set up, there's no need to spend time on screens. I mean, you can supplement it if you need to, but you could run the whole thing without any screen time at all. You can actually make a difference in the lives of young people, practical difference in their mental health, just by following the club curriculum, just by doing the things that you usually do as a club. And oftentimes we on a camp out or a summer camp, we'll say to young people, all right, you've got to hand your phones in and we'll keep them in this box here. And they scrape their feet and drag their heels and put them in the box, and a few days later they almost all admit that they didn't really miss them anyway. So another practical good thing that can come out with mental health. Leadership development. I heard recently it was said the most widespread, effective, structured leadership program that the church has is our club ministry, Pathfinders, Adventurers. Very deliberate counsellors, junior counsellors, master guides. All of them have this idea in mind that you're growing up into leadership, that you're going to do something. Someone is always training another person and someone is always mentoring another person. It's part of the DNA in the Pathfinder space. And many, many leaders have come up through our church around the world through the Pathfinder system. People get an opportunity to do things that they might not often get to do in the outside world. We had testimony this morning in the big tent from the lady who sang the special item, whose name I can't recall. Susan, was it? And she said, I teach these boys, and what'd she say, 90% of them just go straight home and they never go stand on the grass. Who would have thought that the simple things in nature could have such a big effect? You don't need a big fat budget. You don't need, fancy things or a whole lot of trappings. You can make a difference, grow people as leaders, doing simple things. And my question is, if there was no adventurers and pathfinders and ambassadors, then we have to ask ourselves this question, then what else or who else is discipling our young people? Very, very rarely, if we as a church say, if there's a church somewhere that says, look, we're not going to run Pathfinders this year, it's not like they go and choose another program to do with the young people. It just goes to a black hole and nothing happens at all. And so I'm of the opinion that we need to try and be as flexible as possible to try and have something running in the adventurer, pathfinder, ambassador space than have nothing at all. Because usually the nothing at all is far, far worse than even a maybe a pathfinder club or an adventurer club that is still growing and the leaders are still learning. Mentoring, we've talked a little bit about this, and mentoring can be formal or informal. Sometimes we have particular arrangements. Okay, will you be my mentor? Will you teach me this? Yes, and there's an arrangement. Other times it's very informal, and I've talked a little bit about it. When you're walking around with a group of young people from A to B somewhere, when you're out doing a bit of map and compass work, that's when, in this case here, a bit of abseiling. This is the sort of time that informal mentoring is going on. Helping someone who's never abseiled before go, make their way to the edge and then make their way down the face. Has anyone ever had the opportunity to talk someone through that? Yep, we've got a few hands going up. Hey, Luke, you want to tell us? Is it easy to talk them through that?
Not really, no.
No?
But they're scared of dying.
Yep. Again, this is a chance you're having those conversations, and there's research done in the United States, and they talk about a 5-to-1 ratio. And what they say is this: every young person needs 5 adults around them who actually show an interest in their life. I've listed some of the things down here at the bottom. 5 people who know their hopes and dreams. 5 people who know their quirks and good points. 5 people who they can talk honestly about what's really going on. 5 people who can offer wisdom. And this is most often 5 people who aren't their parents, but 5 people who actually care about them. 5 people who know their names. 5 people who, each time they see them, maybe at church each week, they can greet them by name and remember what they talked about last time. Oh, how'd you go with that school assignment? Oh, what happened at the cross country last week? Oh, happy birthday. Someone who knows about them, who has some, can speak into their life, who prays for them, who cares about them. And what they found is, when you get this ratio, 5 other mature adults around them, 5 of them for every 1 young person, the chances of them walking with Jesus and being part of a church community increases like exponentially. And this isn't, again, anything fancy. You're not asking anything, there's not some special curriculum, there's not some special payment you have to make, we're not talking about any of those things. This is showing an interest in the lives of young people intentionally. And club ministries are just wide open to help create those kind of relationships. They naturally foster them. So mentoring. Our service, we've all been involved in service in various ways, and getting young people involved in service not only benefits the people who are receiving the service, but also benefits those who are giving the service. How many young people go out? In Australia, there's a thing called Stormco. Yeah? Anyone else heard of Stormco? Service to others really matters. Groups of young people go out and serve communities, and I've visited so many of these different groups who are out and about in, doing service in communities all over the country. And the young people who are doing it, they are just loving it, on fire. And I know Neil's led a fair few service trips. Again, a great opportunity just to be with young people, get alongside them, talk with them, help them grow. They can learn new skills, a whole bunch of benefits of service. And it's a great way to, if you're wearing the uniform, to be seen around the community, serving others and engaging in the things that matter to your wider community. When your community respects you, much easier to have those conversations. Much simpler to, introduce them to the God of the universe in a way that makes sense to them. You've got to know them. You understand what makes them tick and how their brains go and what their challenges are. We talked about this a little bit earlier, about tradition. Outside the church community, positive feelings towards pathfinders, adventurers. Inside the community, again, the church community, there's often very positive feelings. The service events, the investitures. It also connects the generations. And those traditions and rituals can really help springboard you into great places for mission. If you're looking for helpers, I need some helpers for the Pathfinder camp. It can sometimes be tricky to get. But you start, reminding people about, remember when you were a Pathfinder? Oh, yeah, okay, I'll come and help. Good feelings about it. And as I mentioned before, you got an open door into the lives of people when you can talk about, I remember when you were a Pathfinder, they might not come to church anymore, but you got a relationship already half built that can help you go a long way. Have we got any people here who are like a district director for Pathfinders or adventurers? Or yep, we got one. 2. Youth directors. We did have a couple of youth directors here. Yes. You got a youth director? Yep. Yes, some youth directors. Yes. Excellent. All of these things are support to you if you are running club ministry. Conferences offer training of various kinds. There's curriculum options to meet the needs. In Australia, there are now 4 recognised Pathfinder curriculums. And we encourage clubs, you just pick one that helps you to be missional, that matches your needs, because having them work deliberately through a process, a curriculum, will give you much better outcomes than if you're just guessing, we'll just try this week, we'll just do that next week. Being deliberate about it. Honours and awards, so many honours and awards, and new honours being written all the time in Australia, and awards. So keep your eye out for them. I think there's a bike maintenance one for the adventurers about to go live, and I'm trying to think what the latest one for Pathfinders is. Seaweed, I think, is the latest one about to come out for Pathfinders, and a real big hit is the Haystack Honour in Australia, and that was shared recently on a Facebook group in the United States, and the Resource Centre has been making and packing Haystack Honours like nothing else, like hundreds and hundreds of them, and posting them to the US. So whole lot of resources that are being developed, and if you are really passionate about writing an honour, and I know some people in this room have, and we are really appreciative of that, you can write honours as well. There's little pro formas for adventurers and Pathfinders. You can write the honours. District directors support, youth directors support, and then there are events like camporees, expedition, rallies and fairs. The last South Pacific Division camporee, Nick, was 2015. I Thirst. Was anyone at I Thirst camporee? Yeah, a few hands going up. Yeah, and again, as you're putting your hands up, you know what I'm noticing? Big smiles. These are really good things to help you if you are at the local church level, you're at the club level. All of these events are to enhance the Pathfinder year, create a whole bunch of new social opportunities as well. And I'm talking here about flexibility. If you travel around Australia, you get a whole range of different clubs. The club my children just recently moved from, I think last year had 9 campouts, and it was on I think 1 or 2 hall nights, hardly any. And all of their work for the year they did on the campouts. And they did all kinds of different campouts. They were at the beach, they were up in the mountains, they were at the snow. They did a whole range of different things. And they loved, like you talk about Pathfinders, I love it. And as part of that, they are doing a whole range of activities in there. They're still hitting the good spiritual things. They're getting a cross-section of learnings. They're being encouraged to memorise Bible verses, all of that kind of thing. But it's very outdoor focused. Other clubs I know almost never hardly, do 2 campouts a year. The rest of the time they're in the hall doing things. If it works for them, praise ye the Lord, all power to you. But as I said before, you're better off to have the young people engaged in doing something positive, something with Pathfinders and Adventurers, than doing nothing at all. We have church-based clubs are most common, but we do have some school-based clubs that occasionally you see. Out in the wider Pacific, how many clubs come out of schools? Are there many? Or are they almost all out of churches? Churches? Yep, coming out of churches. I think, Neil, you've had some experience with a club in a school.
Yeah, so run in a church that's based out of a school, but uses the school as a primary, like a outreach into that community, like to actually reach non-Adventist, unchurched sort of people that parents get involved in to help, and you all go camping together, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a great way to do community with unchurched people through the Pathfinder stuff.
Yep, thanks, Neil. And there are examples. Your club, Neil, how many? What percentage of people would come from a church background?
Well, it varies, of course, over different times, but we've certainly had it over like more than half would be unchurched at times, and other times there's more church people there. But yeah, certainly ebbs and flows. But when you're really focusing on that outreach, yeah, it's achievable.
Yep, and I can think of a club on the central coast of New South Wales, so down near Sydney. Over 65% of the attendees of the kids who come, they're not from Adventist homes or even Christian homes at all. But their friends invite them. So many young people in the holidays are sitting around, bored at home watching movies or whatever, and they get back to school and find out, we went on this expedition and we climbed up here and did that, and someone fell off a cliff and they called the helicopter in, and got all these great stories to tell. And do you want to come? And yeah, we'll come. We'll check that out. That sounds like fun. And it's rare that a parent says, no, you can't go out and have fun in a structured outdoor setting. That's a very rare kind of reply. 4 options. Make the curriculum work. So here we go. Why club ministries? This I've pulled straight off the General Conference website, and I believe it holds true across all our club ministries. To lead young people into a saving relationship with Jesus Christ and help them embrace his call to discipleship. That is why our clubs exist. Every club night, every camp out, every camporee, every expedition is another opportunity to call people to commitment in Jesus Christ. And I'm not saying, we have to have a big altar call with, the organ playing and, just is there one more? I'm not talking about that sort of thing. What I'm talking about, each time they're together, you get the opportunity to talk to them about Jesus. And you get the opportunity to tell them the good news in another way. In a way that makes sense to you and a way that makes sense to them. And they may have never set foot in a church in their lives, but you have the authority, you've earned the authority to speak into their lives and to tell them something that has changed yours. And that is why our club ministries exist. Jesus' words here in Matthew 28, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. We don't need someone to believe everything we believe to be a part of a club. If they want to come along and be part of it, they can belong in our club. And as they belong in our club, they'll start believing the things we believe, because when Jesus is lifted up, it just rubs off into others. And then they start behaving as well the way Jesus would want them to behave when the Holy Spirit starts working on their lives. Clubs exist to serve the mission, not the other way around. Do you get what I'm saying? All of our clubs, they're there for mission. Mission, mission, mission. The club is not an end in itself. It is a tool that we use to help us introduce people to Jesus and grow them as disciples. That's its job. And so if we find ourselves trapped in a cycle where we're just helping the club exist, we need to stand back and take a moment, because we still want pathfinders to be pathfinders and adventurers to be adventurers. But at the end of the day, what we want more than anything else is disciples in the kingdom of Jesus. And so pathfinders and all the clubs only serve as a tool to help us get there. Jesus can make the rocks cry out if he wants to. He doesn't need this stuff, but he wants us to work with him to help lead people to Jesus. And this has proven, clubs have proven over and over again, to be a great way to help people get closer to Jesus. Mission. Has anyone got any questions? I've talked way too much, I think. Didn't tell you enough stories, enough tales. But if you've got any questions, fire away. Happy to hear them. Any comments? Anything you got? Yeah.
Just a question. This is based on our context in Kiribati, where we don't have 95% of people going through master guides and all these leadership things. And we find it like it's a crisis for us. So in churches that there are people who know how to teach the curriculum. What is the alternative for them?
So let me just make sure I heard you right. In your setting, when they come through Pathfinders, they get to Master Guide, and you're saying then they're dropping out, or?
There's no one that knows. Like being in Pathfinder, I think they have no experience in it, and they want to do the clubs, but there's no options. People who are.
Have you ever offered any training to like just potential leaders, like anyone who wants to be a leader?
We are hoping to do that this year. But at the moment, most of our churches are.
There's nothing, don't discount to the informal things that go on. Even if there isn't a hard and fast curriculum, you might be able to borrow some little bits and pieces out of the existing Pathfinder one and use them on a camp. Or get a Pathfinder honour and use that as the basis of a camp out somewhere. Just having the young people out doing something, or organise a service trip. You don't need a big curriculum for that, but have them doing something together with some more senior people in your church. Again, you're building those relationships and you're building those networks, and they're the things in the club ministry that really win the day, not the club necessarily, if that makes sense. Yeah. Good question, thank you.
And just one observation there too. You have a new Union Youth Director, Steve Aquila, who is he has a lot of experience in Pathfinder ministry. And as the Union Youth Director, Kiribati is in his territory, so he needs to come out and to invite him out to do Master Guide training for you. And also there are opportunities at camporees I know there's a union camporee coming up soon in Tonga. So you need to take your delegates, the Master Guides, to Tonga for the camporee, and they will also get a chance to be exposed to training for things like Master Guide for camporee as well. So there are opportunities to help with that. But there are also other people other than Steve Aquila. If you wanted to invite some of the other people that have experience from TPUM to come into Kiribati and work with your leaders, there's a lot of experienced Pathfinder leaders in Fiji, Vanuatu, Tonga, Samoa. They're around if you can get them to come and visit you as well.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, Christopher.
I was just thinking, what are some strategies or some effective ways to integrate a relationship with a church-run Pathfinder club and a nearby Adventist school? How to maximise that potential?
This is a very good question. it's a real challenge because schools have a whole lot of government regulation they have to work under, and certain ways they've got to go, and local churches sometimes have quite different ideas to schools about how it should work. I think one thing that's very important, Christopher, is the relationships that exist between school leadership and church leadership, and I would try my best to foster those very early before you even talked about, having a club go one way or another. If those relationships are strong and trust is built, I think your ability to be able to speak into what's happening in school land and vice versa they'll increase exponentially because they're built on relationships built on trust. And so that I think that's going to be your first step. And as you start building those relationships deliberately, catching up just for a quick conversation, maybe eating a meal together, that kind of thing, I think from there naturally will grow out good things, because I've yet to meet a school leader yet who doesn't want good missional outcomes for their students, and I've yet to meet a pastor yet and a church who deep down doesn't have that same desire. So how you get there, that's usually where the friction comes, and I think good relationships is the key.
Thanks.
Yes, Sven.
Yeah, Rick, really good presentation. I just wanted to, so imagine that you've got a club which is primarily Adventist, and you want to really grow its connection with the community. So what would you say are real keys in terms of promoting engagement, things like ad safe, behavioural management, as that change occurs? How would you achieve that change process?
Good question, thanks, Sven. I think one of the key things is, if we've got a club, for example, that's almost exclusively Adventist young people, start having conversations, starting with the leadership, about, the missional side of things. Like, how can we, sow the seeds, if you know what I mean, as a starter. Secondly, something practical I believe you could do is have like a Pathfinder Visitors Day of some kind, or a visitors camp, an event that is directly aimed at you. You invite your friend, and with that in mind, then you can work backwards for the ad safe things and all of those for a one-off event and gauge some interest. If there is no interest, like if the interest is very small, I would be asking questions about why is it that young people are hesitant to invite their friends? Like what's holding them back? Because clearly there are some clubs that can get more than half of their young people straight out of the community, so it can be done. Sometimes, like I met a person, I can't recall another story like this. I met a person the other day who said they didn't like Pathfinders and wouldn't send their children to the club, and I inquired why. Because our club leader, all they did was drill and marching when I was a kid, and this person's in their 50s now. Stuck in their head. And so I wonder whether there are sometimes feedback that you can get from the young people about, what's stopping you inviting your friends, and you might find out it's the drill and marching, or it could be a whole range of things, and then you can start addressing those as well. Does that sort of answer your question, Sven? Yeah. Do you want to say anything, Nick?
Friendships.
Friendships are key. They really are. That's what all that sort of thing is built on. Yeah. Any last questions, comments? I'd like to pray for all of those. Oh, there's one at the back. Sorry.
Brother, thank you for your wonderful presentation this afternoon. I want to make a comment on the curriculum of Pathfinder. I was asked a question. Recently I was asked a question on how can we intentionally engage our Pathfinders in our preparation for the TPU for Christ. I'm a youth director. Mm-hmm. I'm an associate youth director in my local mission. How can we engage our Pathfinders in their preparation for the Solomon Islands for Christ? Now, take for instance the rental class. With spiritual discovery, they deal with areas of discipleship. They do Bible marking. And as you speak today, I was just thinking about the question that was asked. You know, while doing fact-finding, doing achievement classes for the ranger class, how can we engage them, in preparing people for the July harvest? I'm thinking we have the the World Changes Bible sent to us, that while doing the Bible marking classes as part of the requirements in the spiritual discovery, they can actually, it's kind of helping them to lead other young people in the society to prepare them for the July harvest. And I don't think, I think this is an important thing for us, wherever we come from. We can engage our pathfinder while doing the curriculum. A normal pathfinder, but we extend that to people in the community, especially for us in Trans-Pacific Union Mission. July is our harvest time, and I wonder how many pathfinder leaders who are here this afternoon will translate the spiritual discovery part of the pathfinder activity class. I'm talking about ranger class as an example. We can use it as a preparation for the harvest in July. Thank you.
That's a really good comment, and thank you for sharing. I think that could even be extended to the wider club if you use the Bible marking honour or something like that, and set a challenge to the Pathfinders, even a conference-wide challenge. You know what I mean? Let's see if all the clubs could do the Bible marking honour this year, and everyone find at least one person to have a Bible study with who is not a church member, or there's lots of ways I think that we could take the opportunity and develop it. And I think you've made a very, very good suggestion, and thank you for sharing. To finish up, I'd like to pray for you all as leaders. Most of you are involved in club ministry somehow, and I'd like to ask a blessing, God's blessing on your sphere of influence. So if you can bow your heads, that'd be great. Father in heaven, we invite you once again into this room. We know that you're here by your Spirit, and we know that your Spirit is working on people's lives all the time, softening their hearts and pointing them towards Jesus. Father, we want to assist you in that mission. And I just pray that everyone here who is part of a club ministry in some way or another, Lord, that you can lay on their heart a passion for young people and for lost souls. May they have the wisdom and insight to be able to share in such a way that it encourages young people, that it points them to Jesus, and to the point they want to make a commitment for you, Jesus. Bless them all. They've travelled long ways to be here. May you fill them with wisdom and understanding and energy to take the gospel message forward. And I pray all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.